This is NC Spin, an unrehearsed discussion on issues of interest to North Carolinians. Now, here is your moderator, Tom Campbell.
Welcome. You've heard and read the spin the media and the politicians have put on the issues of the day. To get the correct spin on what's going on in North Carolina, let's introduce you to our panel of experts. They include Chris Fitzsimon from NC Policy Watch, former Secretary of State, former Attorney General, former candidate for governor, Rufus Edmisten, former Watergate hearing trial investigator, Jeanne Bonds, political analyst and consultant and lobbyist, and Becki Gray with Carolina Journal. Well, this week's show promises to be interesting as we discuss a new school voucher proposal, ways to fix the Medicaid system, tolls on new sections of interstate highways, and moral Mondays at the legislature. Let's get started. It's no secret that one of House Majority Leader Skip Stam's primary agenda items is school vouchers. Stam and many Republicans want parents to have a choice in where their children attend schools, but the topic always draws criticisms from educators and public school advocates. A new approach to vouchers would allow parents of students who qualify for free and reduced lunches to have a voucher worth $4,200 to attend the private or religious school of their choosing. Becki, supporters say many people don't have a choice where they live, but they should have a choice where they go to school. Meanwhile, opponents say this is just going to siphon off badly needed funding from public schools and isn't the way to improve them. What are the chances this voucher bill is going to pass?
I think it's very good that it's going to pass. It's going through the House. It passed a House Education Committee this week. It's going on to the House Appropriations Committee, and then, of course, it will go over to the Senate. Tom, this seems to be an idea whose time has come. You know, we know from studies of school choice and school choice environments that even in the most fertile school choice environments, only about 20-25% of parents choose an option outside of the traditional public schools. So, you know, while we're improving the public schools, we're also, I think the time has come to offer vouchers, to offer choices. This particular idea would be offered to low-income families who would not be able to afford this otherwise. You know, for some parents who have the means to have private school, to be able to pay for that themselves, it is an option. So this is an effort to make that option available to low-income parents, expand those choices. We've seen that it improves education, it saves the state money, and again, it's answering the needs and the desires that parents have.
Rufus, you're a former school teacher in a former life. This almost feels like trying to get a camel under the tent. We're starting by getting the nose under the tent by using the free and reduced lunches because the other means of trying to get vouchers through the legislature haven't been successful. What do you think of this plan?
It's sort of like the cartoon I saw the other day. Little kids, his brother said, "Don't you set foot out of this house," and only his feet are left inside the house. And I taught the third grade one time. It was a private school, Becki, in Alexandria, Virginia, called Ascension Academy. And yes, there was good education there because I taught them some things they'll never forget.
But meanwhile, back on the subject.
However, Tom and panelists, you know, I'm so tired of that word slippery slope. I'm willing to try something, but how do you guarantee that these schools that Becki talks about are going to give a kid what they need? That's what bothers me. How do you do the accountability? And you can't tell me that when somebody starts a program who's as dedicated as the gentleman you mentioned in the House, that they won't stop and at a certain point. And I'm just afraid that we're headed down the road, Becki, of having people say, I don't want to go to these public schools because they don't do a good job.
Well,
they do a great job.
All right, Chris, what's wrong with allowing parents to choose the school they want to go to?
Well, parents can choose right now the school they want to. The problem is that we're going to be asked as taxpayers in North Carolina to subsidize schools that have a very religious curriculum, that have very little accountability. A voucher program in Louisiana literally is teaching kids that dinosaurs were on the earth alongside people at the same time, which is ludicrous. Teaching people that gay people are dangerous in the textbooks. There's been tons written about these schools, and they've been accredited by religious organizations, which they could be accredited in North Carolina by. So there really is not much accountability for taxpayers. That's the first thing. The second thing is Representative Stam has been very clear. He said a couple years ago at an Americans for Prosperity luncheon, his first goal is to get the poor kids vouchers. Eventually, every kid that currently goes to a private school or is homeschooled gets a tax credit equal to what the school is going to get, which would really would devastate the public schools. And the third thing, the good news, is Senator Jerry Tillman, the Senate Education Chair, said this is unlikely to pass the Senate. He doesn't think we needed to go that.
All right, Jeanne, but Chris talked about subsidizing private schools. The reality of the situation is we're giving those students $4,200 to go spend in a school of their choice, but the state is spending almost twice that amount of money right now on public school students. So as Becki said, this is actually saving the school system's money, isn't it?
Well, I don't think so. In my research about the private schools, you can find in some, it depends on where you are in the state, but there are not that many private schools where you can go get that education for the amount that they're saying.
Well, they're not saying that's going to be the only amount. They're just saying they got a voucher for that amount.
Then recent surveys of the private schools indicate that you can, that the average cost is more in the $4,000 a year, $5,000
statewide.
That's below. There's some in the 20,000. There's some counties that don't have any private schools.
In New Hanover County, some of the schools, even the Catholic private school, is a lot more than that. And then you have to pay extras for testing to get in, and you have to have uniforms.
All right, we're off the subject. That's not the subject that we really want to be talking about here. We're talking about vouchers and the effect that it's going to have. There are 12 states that have voucher programs, and most of them for special need or lower income students. We understand that in Louisiana, the court struck down the vouchers because it took money away from public schools. Is there a threat of that, Becki?
Well, let me just remind you and our viewers too, we're not in Louisiana. So we have a situation here in North Carolina that's very different. The way that it's set up and the way that the different state constitutions are set up would determine the constitutionality of it. There have been several constitutionalist experts who have said that this North Carolina law would meet the constitutional requirements here in North Carolina, so I don't think that's a concern at all.
Constitutional lawyers are going to be doing great after this session because we got a whole list of
things.
Well,
Winston-Salem Representative Ed Haynes says that not all students have an equal opportunity for the sound basic education that our good friend Howdy Manning talks about so much. He says this is the civil rights issue for our time, Chris.
Well, I think they're guaranteed a sound basic education, and we ought to provide it. What happens to a kid who goes to a private school and doesn't do well and flunks out? Guess what happens to him? He goes back to the public school. Private schools can reject kids they don't want to take. They can reject kids on a whole bunch of bases. They can teach them almost anything they want, and we as taxpayers are subsidizing that. I agree our public schools need improvement. I don't think they're as broken as a lot of folks, but let's fix them. We have charters, we have magnets, there's choice within the public school system. We don't need to be giving money to schools that are unaccountable.
Well, you're talking about cherry picking here in some instances, and I would suggest this, Becki. Teachers' aides are, any teacher in the world will tell you they'd rather have a teacher's aide than anything else.
That's not the subject we're talking about, but it's one we will talk about, I'm sure.
Well,
if you enjoy keeping up with what's happening in North Carolina, you're going to enjoy our website, ncspin.com, and NCSpin on Facebook. All during the week, our panelists and viewers sound off with their opinions of the events. Be sure to watch the conversation at ncspin.com or NCSpin on Facebook. And by the way, you can view NCSpin by going to our website anytime you like. When we come back, we're going to be talking about fixing Medicaid.
NC Spin will return after these messages.
Our farmers are among the most productive in the world, even while lacking a stable and reliable agricultural workforce. But the workforce problems in agriculture have reached a breaking point, and food demand continues to rise. Reforms to the immigration system can ensure that farmers have access to the workers they need. The good news is that we still have time to fix this corrosive problem. Tell your congressional representatives that we need comprehensive immigration reform in 2013.
The North Carolina Medical Society is committed to a healthier North Carolina. We feel as an organization representing over 14,000 physicians that we have a responsibility and an obligation to help our citizens become more healthy. And by doing this, we want to help educate them about ways in which they need to keep themselves healthy through good nutrition, exercise, and maintaining a healthy lifestyle. These ingredients will help not only individual citizens become and maintain a healthier outlook on their lives, but also help contribute to having a healthier state.
Resident lenders of North Carolina are licensed providers of safe and responsible financial services. Existing regulations limit consumer choice. It's time to modernize consumer finance laws. Learn more at responsibleloansnc.com.
Tax reform. It's a popular phrase around Raleigh. But watch out, because middle-class families will pay more. The Senate plan creates over 170 new taxes that will increase prices on all goods and services. It even taxes medicine and Social Security benefits. and it eliminates the home mortgage interest and property tax deductions, reducing home values and hurting the economy. Tax reform should not make middle-class families pay more.
We now return to NC Spin.
Most everyone can agree that our Medicaid system needs triage. Every year sees cost overruns and questions of mismanagement. Governor McCrory proposed to fix it by controlling costs using for-profit managed care companies, a proposal that required legislative approval and doesn't seem to have it. The governor, House Speaker Tillis, and Senate President Pro Tem Berger have agreed that they will come together to form a plan by the middle of next year. Chris, is the McCrory Medicaid proposal dead? Is managed care still on the front burner? What are the expectations from this new coordinated effort?
I don't think we know. I certainly don't think it's dead. I think there's some philosophical agreement among some of the leaders, although there is also Representative Nelson Dollar, who's sort of been the point person in the House for Medicaid for a long time, reacted very negatively when this was first announced. There's also questions about the credibility of Health and Human Services Secretary Aldona Vosch, who said at a public event in Reidsville that Wayne Goodwin, the insurance commissioner, was the reason we didn't expand Medicaid, which is very alarming when a woman who's in charge of the whole department doesn't know who makes decisions. And I think the third thing is Community Care of North Carolina, which is a nonprofit managed care company, which has won national awards, which has kept the Medicaid growth down among lower, the cost increase down was well liked, I think, in the General Assembly. That would be hard-pressed to compete with for-profit. So I think this, at the very least, we're a long way away from doing this.
Becki, Scott Mooneyham wrote a very interesting column in his Insights this week, in which he basically said that the House and the Senate essentially patted Governor McCrory on the head and said, thanks very much for trying. You go off and keep playing nicely, and we will take care of the heavy lifting on this. Is that the message you got?
It was not the message that I got, and I read Scott's piece as well. The message that I got, and if you look at the Senate budget, I think what he was referring to was a provision in the Senate budget that set aside a goal, if you will, instructions, if you will, on Medicaid reform that the Senate put in there to leave the door open for, I believe, the governor's plan on Medicaid reform, as well as for the House to do something. So I disagree with Scott in his assertion that this somehow was dismissal of the governor and his plans for Medicaid
Jeanne,
reform. I think it just opens the door for it.
A lot of the disparate interests that are involved in this, hospitals, doctors, insurance companies, and so forth like that, have complained that they weren't at the table when these reform decisions were being made by the governor. They are now concerned that a deal's already been cut between the House and the Senate and the governor, and they're still not going to be at the table. What do you think?
Well, I agree. No one was at the table when the governor announced his plan. The House and Senate weren't with him. I personally have a question as to whether we keep having overruns in that system because we're actually having to pay back for not doing Medicaid expansion at the beginning. Those stakeholders have a reason to be concerned, but I don't think there's a plan because I don't think the three parties, the House, Senate, and governor, and especially Secretary Voss, even understand what's going on.
Rufus, when you were Attorney General, we had the Medicaid program going, and as you well know, any kind of changes that need to be made have to have federal approval. How is the legislature thinking they're going to be able to make this decision by March of next year and implement it by July of 2015?
Well, first of all, that's not going to happen. I remember the Willie M. case. That's one that I had to handle the whole time, and it was because we didn't follow the rules that federal people set. Now, let me make this plain here. I've got some clients on both sides here. Sounds like a conflict, but in the 80s, the managed care companies did a lousy job. They really did. They ran some family practices out of business. They were horrible. What the governor's talking about is having managed care companies that come in and have a limit set on what they can get. And we're all skirting the real problem here that we have numerous x-rays that are double, triple that should be. We have so many duplications, and nobody's managing much except CC&C, which is very good. They need some teeth. And maybe we
they need to tell their story. Nobody knows who the heck they are.
They've got some great people there, and maybe we do need a different approach because it is not working now. Everybody's getting as much as they can out of the system, and there's no coordination, Tom.
Becki, when you're dealing with Medicaid, it is an 800-pound elephant, so to speak. But there are three things that you can do with Medicaid. You can control eligibility, you can control the services that are provided, and you can control the amount of funding. I'm not hearing anybody talking in reform about any of these three elements, which is really, I would think, one of the three things that they ought to be looking at, shouldn't they?
Well, they're talking about cost containment and efficiencies and eliminating waste and fraud. You know, as Rufus mentioned, triple, quadruple charges for x-rays, those kind of things. What we've heard during this year's budget discussion is that Medicaid, the Medicaid expenses and the Medicaid overruns, which it seems like every week we're learning of more shortfalls, more overruns in Medicaid. And we have got to get the cost containment, get that under control, get efficiencies in place. Just this latest IT mix-up, big system that is in place. Largest state contract in state history.
It's a big fiasco, no question. We'll be talking about Medicaid, I'm sure, for many months to come. When we come back after these messages, we're going to talk about tolling roads.
NC Spin will return after these messages.
North Carolina hospitals keep our communities and families healthy with quality, affordable care. And they're essential to our economy, employing more than 190,000 people with high-wage, high-skilled jobs. But many hospitals in North Carolina are fighting for their survival, facing budget cuts from Medicare, Medicaid, and private insurers, even though hospitals often get paid less than the cost of the life-saving care they provide. Over the next decade, North Carolina hospitals will face $7.8 billion in reduced revenues, putting our hospitals and the communities they serve at risk. If we want healthy communities, we need financially healthy hospitals that provide excellent care. Let's keep our hospitals in North Carolina healthy for all of us. Please join us at healthyhospitalsnc.org.
Resident lenders of North Carolina are licensed providers of safe and responsible financial services. Existing regulations limit consumer choice. It's time to modernize consumer finance laws. Learn more at responsibleloansnc.com.
You trust your family physician to care for you and your family. We treasure that trust and are committed to providing the best care possible for all North Carolinians. It's time for Medicaid reform, but not without input from North Carolina's family physicians. Medicaid reform will impact health care for all of us. Tell state leaders you want your physician involved. We need Medicaid reform that's good for North Carolina. To sign our petition of support, visit rnchealthcare.com.
There's a new day dawning for our state. A fresh crop of leaders are bringing conservative reform. Gone are the days of billion-dollar deficits and the threat of Obamacare minimized. Now they're working to get our economy on track by holding the line on spending, cutting taxes, passing tax reform that's smart and fair. Let's get back in the game, North Carolina. Encourage our new leaders to keep going.
We now return to NC Spin.
Another big conundrum of state leaders is how to fund our transportation needs. Public opinion polls demonstrate the problem we've got. We want more and better roads, but we don't want to pay increased taxes to get them. And we don't like the concept of toll roads either. Well, the House passed a bill that would prohibit tolls on existing interstate highways, but would allow tolls on new lanes of constructions for those interstates. Rufus, just how much of a solution is this? Who's it going to satisfy, and who's not going to be pleased with it?
Well, one, it would satisfy the builders, the road builders. They'd love it. I can tell you a group that wouldn't like it would be the people on the extreme East Coast, on the western part, because they end up having to pay for the tolls. Nobody likes the increase.
Well, wait a minute. There'll be lanes open that they don't have to pay tolls
well, they
on.
don't use them that much. The big problem is that somebody has to pay for it, and you said nobody wants to pay for it. Do you want to increase the gas tax? No. Do you want to increase the tax you put on buying a new car, new or used? No. So what do? I don't think this thing has been thought through very well, but if we're going to have these kind of toll roads, we better go ahead and start somewhere and let those that use them, and I'll have to confess, Becki, I may go back to what John was talking about charging people by how many miles you drive.
Yeah.
It's about the only way to do it, and nobody likes it, but it has to be done, in my opinion, Tom.
Chris, a lot of people are saying this is the least bad option that we've got for the interstate highways. Do you agree with them?
Well, I mean, I'm not a supporter of toll roads, and I think that we have the gas tax in place. If it's not adequate, we need to come up with another system. I do think eventually we're going to go to miles traveled. It's interesting to me that there's a $100 charge in the Senate budget if you drive an electric or hybrid vehicle. So let's assume you drive a hybrid vehicle and you get 50 miles to the gallon, but if you drive a Honda Civic that gets 42 miles to the gallon, you don't have to pay extra for your car. I mean, that shows the inanity of the whole thing. And I thought the weakness in the governor's proposal was he's just sort of shifting money around without addressing this elephant that you've raised, which is we don't have enough money to build the roads we need and certainly don't have enough to maintain the roads we already have.
There's another question that goes along with this, Becki, and that is that one of the roads they proposed was I-77, which is going to go from Charlotte to Mooresville. We're told is going to cost $550 million to build. My question is, how's the state going to fund it? Where's the money coming from?
Well, that's a good question. As Rufus mentioned, I don't think there's a big appetite for increase in taxes. One of the things that I think
we're going to pass road bonds. We're going to use Garvey funds. Where are they going to get the money from?
Well, one thing that I think we need to start doing is using the tax money that we have that's coming from the gas tax and the transfer of automobiles better. We need to set really firm priorities in where this funding needs to go. We need to change the transportation formula. These are all things that the governor's talking about in reorganizing transportation, looking at it differently and putting those dollars where the congestion is and where the need is, not political patronage. And, you know, to Chris's point with the electric cars and those kind of things and user fees, we need to be open to some new ideas.
Jeanne, I think the question here is, are the motorists going to use these extra toll lanes, or are they going to ride on the ones that are free, regardless of how bad maintained they are? A lot of the toll roads that we've put into service so far, the traffic is lighter than what the analyst had predicted so far, projected for them.
They probably won't use them. I mean, in Wake County, we also have the situation with the 540. Part of the 540 was paid for. Then there's a toll on another part of the 540. People feel like they're paying for it twice. That's also a road that a lot of state workers use, where the average salary is, $35,000 a year or something. They're having to subsidize those roads. They won't use those lanes.
All right.
Well, Virginia's going to have them, though. There's no doubt about that.
Well,
Virginia had them on 95, for years.
I've been saying for a long time it's time for a public infrastructure bond program in North Carolina,
and long-term plan.
Exactly. Let's get it going.
And we can put people to work if we do that.
After these messages, we're going to talk about Moral Mondays.
NC Spin is brought to you in part by the North Carolina Farm Bureau. The Farm Bureau and Agriculture. We keep North Carolina growing.
Tax reform. It's a popular phrase around Raleigh. But watch out, because middle-class families will pay more. The Senate plan creates over 170 new taxes that will increase prices on all goods and services. It even taxes medicine and Social Security benefits. And it eliminates the home mortgage interest and property tax deductions, reducing home values and hurting the economy. Tax reform should not make middle-class families pay more.
Where do you go when you need to know? ANC makes it easy for you to get the information you need to make well-informed public policy decisions. Our members are industry leaders who are ready to share their industry-specific insights with you. Want to hear both sides of the story? ANC members can tell you. Just use the ANC member directory as your guide or call us directly. ANC members have the knowledge, expertise, and perspective you need to create public policies that are good for North Carolina. We are ready for your call.
Raffaldini Vineyards is Chianti in the Carolinas. Enjoy Italian-style wines, breathtaking views, cultural events, and much more. Visit raffaldini.com.
Our Constitution guarantees us the right to peaceably assemble and to petition our government. The Reverend William Barber and the state NAACP have organized Moral Mondays at our General Assembly to protest actions by the legislature. The group has grown in numbers, carrying signs, chanting, and in some instances congesting hallways, prompting arrests from state capitol police. Jeanne, so far more than 150 people have been arrested. one almost gets the impression many of them want to be arrested. How does this help their cause?
I don't think they want to be arrested. I think they're being arrested to prove a point. Reverend Barber's doing a great job of expanding his brand of the NAACP and informing people in North Carolina about the policies that are being enacted at the General Assembly. If the Democratic Party was functional, they would then come in with an alternative that would match up with what the NAACP is doing. But he's doing a great job. People get it. I think a lot of people go over there and they've never been to the legislature. Some people say they were just watching and they got arrested.
Yeah, one of the things that concerns me a little bit is that there were some people, as Jeanne was saying, who just went over there to watch. Now, maybe they were morally in support of what was going on, didn't open their mouths, didn't obstruct the hallways or anything like that, got arrested, were told they had to leave because they were trespassing on public property. You were our top cop in North Carolina. Is that trespassing?
Well, first of all, I think there'll be moral 7 days a week. That's why we're at it. This is, in my opinion, a grave mistake. If you're a citizen of this state, you're entitled to go to any public forum anywhere, and when the day comes that somebody says, you get out of here.
As long as they're not obstructing.
You get out of here just because you want to come watch something is just a blatant violation of the constitutional right to attend and have assemblage.
Becki, there's going to be a lawsuit out of this. What do you think is going to happen?
I think there's going to be a lawsuit. I mean, they've already said. I mean, that's part of it. They get arrested, and then they're going to sue the state for arresting them. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Well, the people who are going to sue them are the people who weren't, a lot of them who weren't involved in the protests.
Right. This sounds like a lot of a waste of money to me.
Well, I think it's drawing national attention to very regressive policies.
Yeah.
Well, you've heard our spin on the issues of the day. To stay informed all during the week, give your feedback, watch our show, read our weekly column. Be sure to visit our website, ncspin.com, or catch NC Spin on Facebook. And we hope you'll join us next week when we take on more issues of interest to the people of North Carolina. Until then, stay informed and watch out for the spin.
Join us next week and get the spin on issues facing our state.